Hi, this is the Cat's Library. I'll be your librarian today. Yeah, this video was done a bit later than I intended. It also took longer to draw than most of the other ones in this series. Not on the channel though. Some of the Dragon Planet videos and the 20 characters 5 color video took much longer to draw. So let's get into it. Engage! The name Giraffe itself was modified from the Arabic names. In English, they used to be called camelopards because the Romans thought that they were a mix between a camel and a leopard. The horn-like things on their heads are called ossicones. Wikipedia said that they're made of ossified cartilage, but when I tried to reverse search that, I couldn't make it to make sense. So either Wikipedia or my searching skills are wrong. Giraffes live in separate male and female herds unless it's mating season. Like humans, necking is an important aspect of the dating process. Unlike humans, giraffe necking involves two males swinging their necks at each other in an attempt to knock each other over. This happens every 2 weeks. Each vertebra in a giraffe's neck is 11 inches or over 28 hundredths of a meter. In this drawing, I looked for a reference in a 3/4 view, since most of the animals in this series are in profile, except for the dolphin and the bat. Okay, apparently I'm having a good job choosing different poses. I tried something a little bit different from the first sketch layer. This time I made a copy of the reference and blurred it so that I could trace over the elements of the picture. I was cautiously optimistic for the background with all the rocks because I was in the mood for a challenge after the frog was so easy. I accidentally made the horns too large on the 3rd sketch layer and didn't notice until I was a few hours into the process. However, this provided clarity to the shapes which were not present in the photograph. This ended up being a first for this series where I let the picture be mildly stylized instead of going for strict realism. One of the reasons I chose a giraffe was because I wanted to practice drawing really short fur. I did multiple upon multiple shading layers in order to get this right, but I'm not sure how well I actually succeeded. If I zoom in too far to the reference image, it gets all pixely and I can't see exactly how the fur works. I got the light tones to look right and shaded before I added the spots so that they stand out. I'm not sure why I decided to do it that way. I briefly tried my usual fur rendering technique, but it looked too fluffy and so I scrapped that layer. Instead, I covered the whole animal drawing in a pencil brush layer for the shadow color, and another layer for the highlights. That, along with the gradients from the lighting and the fur colors, provided a basic illusion of a fur texture. I tried to keep the shadows purple-blue and the highlights yellow-orange, like in the reference. A ways into the process, I put a dark line around the muscles since the head had a line, and it was more detailed as a result. Doing this made some of the anatomy mistakes clearer, like the chest and belly being on completely different levels from each other, and the negative space around the legs and knees being wonky. Those rocks were really fun to draw. I'm not sure how well they ended up looking like rocks by the end of it. They aren't as small and crumbly as in the reference, but they were fun. I used the pencil brush again to make the ground look like dirt. At first, I made them accurate to the reference, but for some reason that made them compete with the main subject, and so I added a bunch of layers on top of the background in order to make the color contrast the giraffe more and bring down the value contrast. This made the background look really cartoony. I added in the foreground stones in front of the giraffe's hooves. I added some more of the shading and highlights before I merged all the giraffe layers so that I could add the reflection to the watering hole. After that, I went back and added a scribbly layer on top of the pelt to add a fur texture. I spent more time trying to get the hooves to look more accurate to the reference. The rocks in the foreground were looking the same level of blurriness as those in the background, and so I added more shading and highlights to them. Photoshop was acting weird, and so I did the finishing touches off camera. I had a really hard time trying to find some stories for this episode. I decided on the animal, and by the time I got the sketch done, I realized I hadn't checked for stories first, even though that is usually one of the first things that I look for. I didn't do it that way for the frog video because I knew for a fact that there are plenty of frog stories, and that probably threw off my streak. Whoops. Here's to the best that I could do. First story. When God made the animals, he told all of them what their purposes were. The giraffe stretched her neck up as high as she could to hear him, and it grew. The giraffe's purpose was to look around for danger and alert other animals when it was coming. Second story. In early 1400s China, the emperor declared an age of exploration, and he sent some of the largest wooden boats ever constructed to the African coast. They came back with several animals, but what really caught his attention was the giraffe. It looked a lot like a mythical animal from their mythology called a kirin, which is often translated in English as a unicorn. The emperor either did not or couldn't believe in supernatural signs, but kirin were supposedly a good omen. He then got a second giraffe. Third story. A giraffe was standing in a pool of water, looking at a sunset. As he was watching it, a monkey came up to the bank. "Hey bud, how's the water?" "Oh yeah, it's up to my knees, my dude." The monkey walked across and almost instantly began to sink. "Hey monkey, why are you flailing around like that?" "I can't swim, you lummox, help me!" The giraffe brought his head down and the monkey gripped onto it. The giraffe gently set his passenger down on the bank. "What was that about?" the monkey asked. "I said that the water was up to my knees." "To my knees. The moral of this story is that things that are easy for some people might be difficult for others, my dude." "Bruh, communicate next time. Just tell me how deep the water is." "We are animals and don't have a unified means of measurement, though." "I am aware. I'm just gonna commandeer the moral section and add that you should communicate better is all. Just end the video already." So here's to the end of the video. I was looking for H animals, and I want to force myself to get some bugs in for species diversity, but then hornets seems to be the only thing that overlaps. Bees make me slightly nervous, but hornets and wasps sort of creep me out, so we'll see if I can go through with that choice. I'm working on the Beauty and the Beast redesign video, and I'm going to take my time with that so as to get it as good as I want it. I think that that's everything that I wanted to talk about. So, like the video, subscribe, comment, watch more of my videos, share with your friends, and goodbye.